With the end of the year coming to a close, you want to make sure that you have everything done correctly in your business, right? One of the many important year-end tasks is to make sure that you're correctly paying and classifying wages. There are many different entity types that businesses can be set up as, and depending on how your business is set up, will determine how you pay yourself as a business owner, a shareholder, or an officer, especially if you're considered an S corporation. In today's podcast episode, I'm covering the essentials of what you need to do when it comes to compensation, especially for the S corporations who need to pay a reasonable compensation to officers and shareholder employees. It doesn't matter if you're using a computerized software system like QuickBooks, Xero, Wave, or FreshBooks for your business finances, or if you're doing your bookkeeping manually with an Excel spreadsheet or even a Google document. You need to make sure that you're recording your payroll correctly. Whether you are just getting started with your business, you are a self-employed individual, a solopreneur, entrepreneur, small business owner, remote, virtual online bookkeeper, virtual assistant, or VA, listen in so that you are aware of how to classify and pay your wages as a business owner and avoid one of the major red flags out there. You're listening to the Mastering Your Small Business Finances podcast, where we get straight to the point on topics that ultimately affect your bottom line. That's right, as an entrepreneur with a small business, money management, growth, marketing, they all affect your bottom line. I'm your host, Chris Ponick. I'm a certified public accountant, and I've been helping small business owners like you navigate and easily understand these complicated topics for over 25 years. I'm a wife, a mom, a grandmother, and a small business owner myself, so I know your time is valuable. In my free time, I make the best sugar cookies and have mastered an amazing chocolate chip cookie recipe. And that's not just my opinion. You're in the right place. I promise your time will be well spent here. Each week, you'll gain confidence and clarity while making a successful impact on your business and grow your bottom line. Get comfy, grab a cookie, and let's get straight to the point with this week's episode. Over the last 20 plus years of doing bookkeeping, I've learned a thing or two about what works for not only my bookkeeping business, but also for other business owners. I know sifting through the available options takes time. I want you to know about 2 solutions that will not only save you time, but they'll keep you in compliance and reduce stress. Do you want to reduce your stress level? First, I highly recommend you check out QuickBooks Online. I've used QuickBooks for over 20 years, and they really know how to streamline processes and make your bookkeeping and recording your transactions simple and easy. QuickBooks is one of the top software solutions used by small business owners, and I would say that over 95% of my clients are using QuickBooks for their business. The bank feeds save you so much time, and I can help you save 50% off your first 3 months. Second, payroll changes are hard to keep up with, and I know how frustrating this can be. That's why I recommend ADP as your payroll solution. I've used ADP to process payroll for years and years, and they are one of the industry-leading payroll and HR solutions serving over 900,000 businesses. By using ADP, you can run your payrolls faster, easier, and with confidence. It doesn't matter if you have 1 employee or over 100. They'll help you pay your employees and taxes accurately and on time. You'll have peace of mind with all the resources you need, and they'll keep you in compliance by meeting reporting deadlines and process W-2s at year-end. I work closely with ADP, and I can help you save 15% off your services and take advantage of their promotions. Head over to financialadventure.com/resources and learn about why choosing these resources matter to your business. They've made a significant impact in my business, and I'm sure you'll agree they'll benefit your business as well. Welcome back. Understanding payroll and compensation is extremely important when you own your own business. Avoiding issues with the IRS is normally something that all business owners work towards achieving, which is why today I want to make sure that you understand how important compensation is. Today, we're diving into the importance of wage compensation for S Corporation officers and shareholder employees. With an S Corporation, corporate taxes are passed through to their shareholders. The shareholders then report this income on their personal return and pay the appropriate taxes. Corporate officers are considered employees under the Internal Revenue Code. When these officers perform more than minor services for the corporation and receive or are entitled to receive payments, their compensation is generally considered wages. When you're an S Corporation, these payments should be treated as wages and not distributions of cash and property or loans to shareholders. Since these officers or shareholders are considered employees, they should not attempt to avoid paying employment taxes by having their compensation as something other than wages. The IRS states that distributions and other payments from an S Corporation to a corporate officer must be treated as wages to the extent the amounts are reasonable compensation for services rendered to the corporation. The amount of compensation will never exceed the amount received by the shareholder, either directly or indirectly. However, any cash or property, or the right to receive cash and property that goes to the shareholder must have a salary amount determined, and that level of salary must be reasonable and appropriate, and they're subject to FICA taxes and other employment taxes. Unfortunately, there's no specific guidelines as to what reasonable and appropriate compensation is. Some factors to consider when determining reasonable compensation are training and experience, duties and responsibilities, time and effort devoted to the business, payments to non-shareholder employees, and what other comparable businesses pay for similar services. Making sure that you set up your compensation as reasonable and appropriate is important. The Internal Revenue Service can reclassify payments that are made to shareholders from other payments, such as distributions, and reclassify them as wages. These wages are also then subject to FICA tax and other employment taxes. Depending on when this reclassification takes place, you could also be liable for penalties and interest for any unpaid payroll taxes. If you're wondering what the difference between a distribution and a salary is, well, it's pretty simple. Distributions are the money that is distributed to you as an owner or a shareholder. These distributions are not considered wages, and they're not considered income. Salaries, on the other hand, is the amount of money that you pay yourself or your employees. This amount is considered compensation or wages and is subject to employment taxes. If you're an S Corporation and you have not paid yourself or your officers or shareholder employees, you want to make sure that you get this set up and paid by the end of the year so that you can file all the necessary payroll reports and pay your employment taxes on time. There are many small S corporations who pay themselves on a one-time basis or an annual basis. If you're paying yourself on an annual basis, you may want to think about changing your payments to a quarterly basis just to distribute your taxes evenly throughout the year. Processing payroll can be complicated. If you don't feel like you have the knowledge to process your payroll on your own, make sure that you contact someone who can help you with this. On the other hand, if you use a payroll processing software that's easy to use, you can certainly process your payroll on your own if you feel comfortable. If you have any questions about payroll for your business, you know that you can always reach out to me by going to financialadventure.com/contact-us. And if you're looking for a payroll solution to process your payroll, I highly recommend looking into ADP. I'm working closely with ADP to make sure that you can get a 15% discount and take advantage of other specials they have going on periodically. You can go to financialadventure.com/ADP and sign up to receive this special pricing. If you're trying to make sure that you're handling situations like this the right way in your business, joining a mastermind is an excellent way to stay up to date and have other entrepreneurs helping you focus on the growth of your business. I'm in the process of creating 2 new mastermind groups that will be starting in the new year. The first is the Mastering Your Small Business Finances CEO Mastermind. This mastermind is an elite mastermind group for entrepreneurs and business owners like you who want to level up your business and reach your business goals faster and more efficiently with an experienced, trusted, and knowledgeable board of directors that you can call your own. The second is the Elevate Your Bookkeeping Business Grow Mastermind. This mastermind is for bookkeepers who want to grow and expand their bookkeeping business by leveraging the experience and knowledge from other like-minded bookkeepers and accountants. If you're interested in applying to either of these mastermind groups, please go to financialadventure.com/mastermind. As always, if you have any questions on these mastermind groups, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you, and I personally respond to all of my emails. I'll post links to these and other valuable resources for business owners and bookkeepers where you're listening to this podcast and in the show notes. All right, to recap this episode. Number 1, understanding payroll and compensation is extremely important when you own your own business. Avoiding issues with the IRS is normally something that all business owners work towards achieving. Number 2, you need to know the importance of wage compensation for S-Corporation officers and shareholder employees. Within S-Corporation, corporate taxes are passed through to the shareholders. The shareholders then report this income on their personal return and pay the appropriate taxes. Corporate officers are considered employees under the Internal Revenue Code. When these officers perform more than minor services for the corporation and receive or are entitled to receive payments, their compensation is generally considered wages. When you're an S-Corporation, these payments should be treated as wages and not distributions of cash or property or loans to shareholders. Number 3, the IRS states that distributions and other payments by an S-Corporation to a corporate officer must be treated as wages to the extent the amounts are reasonable compensation for services rendered to the corporation. Number 4, unfortunately, there are no specific guidelines as to what reasonable and appropriate compensation is. Some factors to consider when determining reasonable compensation are training and experience, duties and responsibilities, time and effort devoted to the business, payments to non-shareholder employees, and what other comparable businesses pay for similar services. Number 5, make sure that you set your compensation as reasonable and appropriate. The Internal Revenue Service can reclassify payments made to shareholders from other payments such as distributions, and they reclassify them as wages. These wages are also then subject to FICA tax and other employment taxes. Depending on when this reclassification takes place, you could also be liable for penalties and interest for unpaid payroll taxes. Number 6, the difference between a distribution and salaries is pretty simple. A distribution is money that's distributed to you as an owner or a shareholder. These distributions are not considered wages and are not considered income. Salaries, on the other hand, is the amount of money that you pay yourself or your employees. This amount is considered compensation and wages and is subject to employment taxes. Number 7, if you're an S-Corporation and you have not paid yourself or your officers or shareholder employees, you want to make sure that you get this set up and paid by the end of the year so that you can file all the necessary payroll reports and pay your employment taxes on time. Number 8, processing payroll can be complicated. If you don't feel like you have the knowledge to process payroll on your own, make sure that you contact someone who can help you with this. And you know I'm going to ask, what's at least one thing that you'll take away from this episode that will help your business succeed and grow your bottom line? If you need some accountability, join our private Facebook community and post your action item. We'd love to support you. Thanks for taking the time to tune into this episode of Mastering Your Small Business Finances. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed creating it for you, I'd love for you to give it a 5-star rating and subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Visit financialadventure.com for the show notes, links from this episode, and while you're there, leave a comment if you have a topic you're interested in learning more about that affects your bottom line. If you're looking for a community where you can ask questions and get feedback about your small business, join my private Facebook group. You can find the links to this group and more on financialadventure.com. And remember, any financial information shared on this podcast is not to be considered professional, financial, or tax advice and should not be solely relied upon. Please consult your CPA or tax advisor for an opinion on your specific circumstances. I'm looking forward to having you tune in next time. Until then, dream big, follow your heart, and love what you do.